Hi everyone, Tina here, and today I'd like to talk about sets and Venn diagrams. In this video, I want to talk about the extra ideas you'll need to be aware of if you're doing the Higher GCSE or International GCSE course. I have made another video on the essential skills you'll need for sets and Venn diagrams, so I'd recommend you watch that video first if you haven't already. So let's talk about these extra ideas you'll need if you're doing the Higher course. First of all, you need to know what it means when there's an n on the outside of a set. This means the number of elements in set A. So for example, let's say you've got set A, which is 1, 3, 5, and 7, then the number of elements in that set A would be 4. If you're doing the iGCSE, there's a few extra ideas to know. First one being X and then this symbol, A. This means X is not a member of A. If you're given a set that has nothing in it, so just the curly brackets, or sometimes written as a circle with a line through it, that means the empty set, which means there are no elements in that set. If you've got this symbol, that means X is a subset of A. And if you've got the same symbol but with a line through it, that means X is not a subset of A. I'll show you an example of subsets. Let's say you've got A being the set of odd numbers, B is the numbers 1, 3, and 7, and C is the numbers 2 and 4. Then we can say B is a subset of A because B only contains odd numbers, but C is not a subset of A because C only contains even numbers. Let's take a look at some examples. Example 1. 50 people were asked if they speak French or German or Spanish. I'm going to highlight 50 there. Of these people, 31 speak French. So if we highlight 31 and then come over to our Venn diagram, let's put that information on there. So I'll just use the universal set symbol for the top. I'm going to use French, German, Spanish. The fact that 31 people speak French means we know that eventually in this French circle, there's got to be 31. But for now, I would leave it blank until we've put more information in. Next piece of information, 2 speak French, German, and Spanish. That can go straight into the Venn diagram because that 2 will go in the middle where all 3 circles overlap. 4 speak French and Spanish but not German. Again, that can go straight in. So French and Spanish but not German would be there. 4. 7 speak German and Spanish. Now we already have the 2 people that speak all 3 languages. So that tells us that we have to have the extra 5 in the overlap between German and Spanish. We're then told that 8 people do not speak any of the languages, which means we can put an 8 on the outside of the circles. And then it says all 10 people who speak German speak at least one other language. That means there isn't anyone who only speaks German. So you can put a 0 in there, and we need to make sure then that the German circle adds up to 10. There's already a 2 and a 5, means we need to put a 3 there. Now we can go back to the fact that we had 31 people speaking French, so inside that French green circle there needs to be 31. We already have 9 from what we've already filled in, so if we do 31 take away 9, that gives 22, means 22 people speak just French. In terms of what goes inside the just Spanish circle, that's where we can use the fact that there were 50 people altogether. So if we add up everything we already have and then take away from 50, that should give us that number. So we're going to do 50, take away all the other numbers added together. That would give us 6. Now we have our completed Venn diagram, so we can attempt the actual question here. So it says 2 of the 50 people are chosen at random. Work out the probability that they both only speak Spanish. So for the first person, the probability that they only speak Spanish, that's going to be 6 out of 50. And then for the second person, because we've already picked one from the 50, it's going to be out of 49 to choose from. And we've already picked one of the people that only speak Spanish. So we can say that the second person's probability is going to be 5 out of 49. We then times those two together and we get 3 out of 245 as our final answer. Example 2. So we're given a universal set with the numbers 1 to 10. A is the set of even numbers, B is the set of multiples of 3, and then they ask us 2 questions here. So list the members of set B dash and then find the number of elements in the intersection between A dash and B. So before we attempt those questions, let's definitely fill in the Venn diagram to help us. So if we label the universal set in the corner, I always find it helpful just to list out the elements of any of the sets that are given. So for A, even numbers within that universal set are 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. And the multiples of 3 are 3, 6, and 9. So if that's set A and that's set B, in the overlap between A and B, we can see we have the number 6. So let's put that there. Cross off the 6. We can then fill in set A, so 2, 4, 8, and 10. The remainder of elements in set B were 3 and 9. Now we can see there are some members of the universal set that don't fit in A or B, and those are 1, 5, and 7. Now it should be easier to answer the questions. First of all, list the members of set B dash, in other words, not B. So if we highlight what that means, it's anything that is not in the B circle. And hopefully you can see that that is 1, 5, and 7 on the outside, and then the 2, 4, 8, and 10. This other set, the intersection between not A and B, so that's where not A and B overlap each other. And that's going to be just this part here. And because there's an N on the outside, that means number of elements in there, and there's only 2. So that's the answer. Example 3. The Venn diagram shows a universal set and 3 sets X, Y, and Z. Then it says the numbers shown represent the numbers of elements this time. So for example, that's telling us that there are 2 elements that don't belong in either X, Y, or Z. Then we're told the number of elements in X dash, so not X, is 14. If we just highlight what that means, it means that anything outside the X circle, the number of elements there is 14. At the moment, we've got 2 and a 3 and a 3, which are already highlighted as not being an X. So that is 8. Means we can work out the missing number in that orange section. If we do 14, take away 8, that gives 6. So a 6 has to go in there. Next piece of information tells us that the number of elements in set Z is also 14. So if we highlight the Z circle, we must have 14 elements in there. At the moment, there are only 9. So if we do 14, take away 9, we get 5. So that must mean that a 5 goes in that missing section there. And that is the completed Venn diagram done. Next, we're asked to find the number of elements in X union Z. So that's everything that's in the X and Z circles. If we add together all of those elements, so 7 plus 4 plus 5 plus 3 plus 6, that is 25. Finally, they want to know the number of elements in the intersection of X and not Y. Thinking carefully about this one, this is where do X and not Y overlap each other? And that's going to be this green section here. And in there we have a 7 and a 5, so altogether 12 elements. Next example is just a shading activity. So it says on the Venn diagram, shade this set. Whenever you get a complicated looking set like this, I find it's helpful to kind of make a sketch on the side of the Venn diagram and think about the individual components first to then work out what the combination would be. If we work on the smaller version over here, first of all, looking at A union B, that would be this orange piece here. And then not C or C dash, that's everything that is outside the C circle. And then they want the intersection of those two things. So in other words, where do those two colours overlap each other? And that's everything here in green. So then we can take that idea and put it onto our final answer, all of these parts here. Last example, only relevant for if you're doing the iGCSE. So it says A, B, and C are 3 sets. The intersection of A and B is the empty set. That means essentially that A and B do not overlap each other or do not intersect each other. So if we're going to put that on the Venn diagram, you can draw B as a completely separate circle because they don't intersect each other. And then it says C is a subset of A. That means it's within A. Everything that's in C is also within A. So we can draw C as a circle inside the A circle. That's us completing the Venn diagram to show these sets B and C. And then they want us to shade the region that represents the intersection of A and not C. So where do A and not C overlap each other? That's got to be just this green part here. That's it for now. If you found this video useful, please do remember to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And do share this with anyone else that you think might find it helpful. Thanks, and see you next time.